Okay, everyone, let's get started. Thank you for joining us today. Another webinar from my house. Most of us, I would imagine, would still be working from home. However, it does look like it is starting to clear out there, which is good. Plenty of people that I know have started heading back into the office, ABC teams, that's excuse me, that sort of thing. So very positive to see. This small business risk review for Q1 2020 was a bit of a funny one, because really the coronavirus COVID didn't really hit from an economic standpoint until probably really late March. So it doesn't exactly paint the picture that we certainly found ourselves in quickly in April, and where we find ourselves now in the first week of May. However, it is still certainly worth providing a bit of an update. I know that people are always keen to see information from CreditorWatch, particularly around small business risk review. And I've got some other sort of anecdotal stuff that I will talk about, which is more in line with what we are seeing at the moment, post introduction of COVID, I guess. So post-normal, the new normal that we're in, that I keep calling it. As always, before we get started, you can ask questions along the way, so please don't be shy. I would do my best to answer them at the end. We are recording today's webinar, and we will be sending out the recording as well as the presentation slides that we're looking at as well. If you want to find more webinars, please jump onto CreditorWatch. There's a webinars link at the bottom in the footer of the website. If not, I believe it's creditorwatch.com.au/webinars that you can go to as well. A little bit about CreditorWatch. As always, Australia's leading and most innovative commercial credit reporting bureau with over 50,000 customers. Our main products include obviously CreditorWatch, which is the core product that houses our credit reports, monitoring and alerts, credit scores, that sort of thing. Data Logic gives you the ability to understand your accounts receivable ledger by uploading your age trial balance. Director Due Diligence has a look at the individuals behind a business, be it directors or sole traders, partners. Plays is our online credit application, an automated decisioning solution. So if you want to do away with a paper-based credit application form, move online, contact us and we can sort that out all for you. We host it, design it, set it up for you, and all you have to do is provide new prospects with a link. PPSR Logic is basically anything to do with PPSR, registrations, renewals, bulk uploads, etc. Everything you need available in PPSR Logic, and that is directly linked with CreditorWatch and Applies as well. And a couple of newer things that we've recently released and revamped. Financial risk assessments gives you the ability to perform a really in-depth, comprehensive financial analysis on a trading partner. Could be a supplier, could be a customer. We'll actually look at the financials behind that entity for the last 2 or 3 years and come back to you with an analysis and recommendations around that as well. So very powerful product, the sort of thing to use for those large credit limits, talking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, or what we find particularly in the procurement and supplier risk space is performing due diligence on those key suppliers out there to understand, are you at risk of losing potentially your biggest supplier? Portfolio Health Check, the most popular product at the moment since Corona came about, gives you the ability to assess your entire ledger, your entire database, be it supplier or customer database, in one go. We will come back to you with high, medium, low risk, what sort of adverse might be against those entities that you're dealing with. Gives you a great ability to really focus on who you should be doing business with and who you need to be moving to a COD type of arrangement, or potentially not doing business with them at all. All of these have links in them, so feel free to click on those for a bit more information when we do send it around. So what is the Small Business Risk Review? As I'm sure plenty of you know, we've got plenty of returning attendees. We're aggregating data from dozens of unique sources, including ASIC, Australian Business Register, AFSA, which controls all the bankruptcy information, courts around Australia, insolvency notices, debt collection notices, and of course, all of the fantastic unique data that comes from our 50,000 plus customers in the form of payment defaults and trade payment data as well. So quick poll question, as I like to do, is how do you feel about the trading conditions for Q1 2020? Now, I want to get your sense of, if you can cast your mind back to when we were all living fairly normal lives pre-corona. How did we feel about those first sort of 2.5 months of the year, January, February, most of March, before corona really started to bite, and we realized it's as negative as it is now. It came and hit us pretty quickly. I know for us, we made the decision to send people home to work from home basically on a Monday, and the Tuesday, the next day, is when everyone was set up and working from home. So it did happen very, very quick. So yeah, let me know how you feel about that. Positive, neutral, negative. I'm really interested to see, one, how good your memories are, and two, what the general feeling was, and we can sort of get a little bit nostalgic, so to speak. All right, I'll give that another 5 seconds. Pop your votes in there. All right. So what we are seeing is 47% positive, 43% neutral, 10% negative. Now it's almost a disappointing thing to see something like this, isn't it? When you sit back and go, the year had started pretty well. Everyone was in good spirits. We were looking forward to a big year ahead. 2019 had been somewhat tough with a slowdown due to federal election, and we did see some retail and hospitality administrations take place pre-Christmas, which is quite unusual. However, coming into the new year, everyone was quite positive. So thank you for that. It's good to see that you share similar feelings about it as I do. Of course, unfortunately, this unprecedented virus has spread around the world and changed everything very, very quickly. So let's have a look at payment defaults for Q1. So if we compare Q4 2019 to Q1 2020, there was a 3.9% increase. And then if we compare Q1 2019 to Q1 2020, there was a 4.5% increase. So it certainly was on the up coming into the end of that first quarter that we've gone through. And I think what we will find is we've seen that levels haven't necessarily increased dramatically since the outbreak of corona. And I think what you'll find is, generally, if we cast our memory back to sort of bushfires and Queensland floods, for example, other large disasters that have caused economic pain, people are generally very sympathetic to those that are suffering as a result. So I think what we will see is mid to late May, early June, we'll start to see an increase in defaults as people's sort of sympathy and patience start to run out with businesses that probably can pay, but that might be taking advantage of corona as an excuse not to pay, but also the need to start registering defaults, preparing statutory demands and debt collection action and that sort of thing. We're certainly expecting to see that start to happen late May into June and onwards, and it'll be a really interesting 6 to 12 months thereafter as well. From an industry perspective, I just pulled out a couple of interesting ones here. Construction saw a 10.8% increase 2019 versus 2020. Wholesale trade, 13.2% increase. So we knew construction would slow down. We knew it was slowing down. So that's interesting. Wholesale trade has obviously done it tough for a number of years now. And then the really interesting one here, financial services. So that's a minus there. I know it's not the best way I've displayed it here, but we've seen a 15.6% decrease. Now, I would definitely expect to see this swing significantly as a result of a huge increase and influx of anticipated bad debts in both consumer and commercial lending, and the pressure that will put on not only businesses, but on the financial institutions themselves. Big four banks, larger banks, have provisioned very well. Off the back of the GFC, they were well positioned, well capitalized. And then obviously Hayne, Royal Commission set them up again to ensure that they've got fantastic capital reserves and governance in place. So it looks like they will shoulder this fairly well, despite the fact that there's going to be huge write-offs in bad debt, as we've seen over the last few weeks with the banks releasing their numbers. So I've just put a little bit of information in here as well about the power of a payment default. As we come to the end of financial year, it is really important for you to take stock of what you are owed. Understand, particularly for defaults that are predating, Corona, you really should be, if you haven't already, registering a default against those customers that owe you that debt. It is a powerful collection tool, and I put in a case study here from Ward Packaging, but we've got more information on the website that you can jump into. But ultimately, when you're finalizing your accounts for this financial year, you'd rather have the money have come in than be writing it off as a bad debt. So I would strongly suggest that you start registering defaults against those overdue amounts, especially those ones pushing sort of 90, 120 days, ones that are, were due in that Feb-March period. It's a really good opportunity for you to collect that. It's a really good opportunity for you to also share the information with the rest of the CreditorWatch community that there are obviously bad debtors out there, and everyone needs to be aware of them. We need to be competing for good debt, not for bad debt. Payment time. So what are we seeing from a trade payment perspective? We've definitely seen an increase of about, I think it was about 37 or 39 days, up to 39 days across the board. There was an article in the AFR today, Matthew Cranston wrote, quoted CreditorWatch's Small Business Risk Review around payment times. So it's obviously disappointing to see, but I would suggest that it's actually increased significantly from them. So I wouldn't suggest, I will tell you that it has increased significantly from then. Obviously, as we jumped into April, and the economic shutdown, commercial shutdown really started to bite. We've seen payment times blow out across most industries, other than those sort of businesses and industries that are enjoying being either an essential service or a service that hasn't really been affected, such as, food and grocery suppliers like Woolies, Coles, Metcash, for example. So looking at Q1 here, agriculture 43 days, construction 80 days. So we know that increase in payment defaults and therefore an increase in payment times in construction. Retail, 48 days, which that'll blow out significantly the next time we look at it closely. They've been absolutely decimated. Transport, postal and warehousing. What'll be interesting here to see where that goes. Plenty of online shopping deliveries being done now, and that being sent to people's homes rather than to an office building. However, on the flip side of that, commercial, trade has shut down significantly. So there's a lot less need for, transport, postal services, and of course warehousing as well. Professional services saw a fairly big increase as well in times to be paid. Trade payment data, obviously very important to understand how your customers are paying you versus other suppliers. We know that trade payment information is definitely a leading indicator of delinquency. So if you can get on top of that, if you can be aware that your customers are starting to slow payment, not just with you, but with other suppliers as well, it's a great opportunity for you to be a little bit more proactive and either reduce their credit limits or put them on stop, for example. So please do check out Debtor Logic if there is some interest in that as well. It's a feature product within CreditorWatch. Looking at court actions around the country, as this probably plays to how everyone was feeling from a positive standpoint, other than obviously New South Wales looking at Q1 2019 versus 2020, there was a general feeling that things were getting better, which is really unfortunate, as we discussed earlier. So you can see here, if we just look at Q1 2019 versus 2020, Queensland 47% decrease, 75% increase in New South Wales, which is a big one. SA was 44% down, Vic fairly steady, and WA down as well. Some notable insight at the bottom we've noted here: agriculture, forest, and fishing saw a 125% increase in court actions from Q4 2019 to Q1 2020. So that's going to be greatly affected, obviously, by the bushfires and some of the flooding that took place as well in late 2019, early 2020. Looking at administration, some quick stats here. Quarter to quarter, we've seen a 2.8% decrease. However, if we look at Q1 versus 2019 versus 2020, we've seen a 17% increase. That's a big change there. It'll be interesting to see how administrations progress over the next, sort of 4 months through to September, when StatDex and Safe Harbor legislative changes come to an end, if they're not extended by the government, and then ongoing from there, for example, for probably 12 to 18 months. I was speaking to an insolvency practitioner who operates in the construction industry. He provided some really interesting insights from his time during the GFC, in that construction had a boom. There was a lot of money, a lot of projects put on by the government. So there was a huge demand for construction and building materials and expertise and services. And what they saw was that industry did extremely well and grew significantly for 12 to 18 months. However, then all of that work essentially ran out, and there was a glut of people and companies and services out there to provide it. And so then 18 months after the GFC roundabout, you saw a big increase in administrations in that construction and building industry. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. The government's obviously been talking about, getting these big public projects up and running, as much infrastructure builds as possible to pump money into the economy, get people working, which is great to see. The question mark becomes what happens when that all comes to an end, and we can obviously look back at GFC lessons. I'm sure there's plenty of other GFC lessons out there for us to know, but we know that administrations are definitely going to increase significantly. Are there enough, administrators, insolvency practitioners out there to manage them all? They're obviously, I think, in my opinion, they're going to be able to pick and choose the best juicy ones and leave, obviously, those companies that are essentially assetless, worthless. And I think the government probably or potentially going to have to put on or create their own administration services team to do essentially the checkbox work of putting companies into administration when an insolvency practitioner won't do it. So it'll just be a more of a tick box sort of effort to liquidate and ultimately deregister those companies that are assetless and worthless. The other thing to keep an eye out for will be certainly an increase in the number of post administrations. You'll see a big increase in illegal Phoenix activity, something to be extremely aware of and cautious of. Keeping an eye out for businesses with similar names, similar assets, similar directors, employees, etc., and understanding exactly how that works. If you do have one of your customers goes into administration, you want to be really, really vigilant around what is how are they trading out? Is it being bought, sold by similar directors? You want to be all over it. And if you're unsure of how to do that yourself, I certainly encourage you to get assistance. There's plenty of good lawyers and advisors out there. There's a panel called Insolve that we work closely with, and they've got plenty of resources and people that can assist you there as well. We will also have a we do have a legal Phoenix white paper that is available for download on the website. I believe it's in the blog. If not, we will be sending it out via email in the next couple of weeks as well. So keep an eye out for that. Some really good information, basic information all the way through to more advanced information for those of you who want to get a little bit of a better understanding of how it works and what to do if you get a sense that it is taking place or you're being affected by it. I've included some insolvencies here by industry. So as we spoke about earlier, agriculture would have got hit very hard, mining, 45% increase we've seen there, construction, wholesale trade, retail trade, all down compared to Q1 2019, but we're going to see that turn around significantly. And then rental, hiring, and real estate services, a big jump there too. So looking at bankruptcy, so these are the individuals, 5,300 odd new personal insolvencies in Q1 this year. That's a 16.5% decrease on Q1 2019, which is really positive to see. They've had quarter on quarter decreases for quite some time now. We're at, I think it was 25 year lows, something like that, around personal insolvencies and bankruptcies, which is great. The other good thing to see is only 24% of them were in business, right? So they were either a sole trader, subcontractor, partner in a partnership, or a company director. So it's always good to see that number on the low side. Otherwise, if it is on the high side, you're seeing a double whammy effect where you've got individuals becoming bankrupt as well as companies going into administration generally. A little link at the bottom here to director due diligence. It's an important feature to give you a better understanding of who are the people behind a business, who are the directors, what's their history like, are they, are they trading well, are there other companies in a good position, have they been bankrupt before, etc. So for a bit more info there, please do click on that link I've provided. We will have the results of the Small Business Risk Review, obviously in an article on the blog. There's a link there for you to click through and get a little bit more information or share the stats around if that's what you want to do. As I said, it was a strange one in that it wasn't, it wasn't very negative, despite the fact that I always knew I'd be presenting this in a really negative economic environment. So we will obviously have the next Small Business Risk Review out in July. We will try to get it out a little bit quicker next time round. Plenty going on this time round, which delayed it a little bit. But just some insights that we're seeing, in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks since Corona really started to affect, businesses and credit reports and whatnot. We had about probably 6 weeks of decreases in the number of credit inquiries that were being performed. However, we saw a big jump 2 weeks ago. It came back off slightly, but we're still seeing the second most number of credit inquiries performed in a week in the last 6 weeks. So that's good. What that means is we're starting to see more and more people perform searches, perform inquiries for the basis of trading, essentially. We're seeing apply easy credit applications, for example. We're seeing increases in the last 2 weeks as well, the number of credit applications that are coming through. So what that means is you've got companies who are applying for credit, which is good. So they're getting out there. You've also got suppliers like yourselves, most of you listening in today, who will be performing searches, performing that due diligence on either your existing customers or potentially new customers to understand, can you be trading with people? Should you be trading with people? So I think that is a really important early indicator of an uptick in economic activity, which is good, should be music to most of our ears. Obviously, there'll be some of you in industries that are really, really hurting and will be hurting for a number of months to come, but there certainly are businesses out there and industries out there that are starting to sort of turn around, or at least stop going backwards, which is really good to see. And that sort of brings me to my next poll question. When do you expect trading conditions to improve? Now, obviously, this is very, very reliant on or will be dictated by the industry that you're in, the size of your business, etc. But I'm quite keen to understand, you know, how long until we start to see a turnaround. I'm not saying back to normal because that's a long, long way off, but I'm saying, when do we start going, okay, we can start to trade, we've got people coming to us, we can start to get our hands on goods to sell, we're providing our services, etc. So when do we expect trading conditions to improve? All right, most of you have voted. I'll give it another 5 seconds. This is really good information to have, so thank you to those who are contributing here. Okay, I'll show these results. So what are we seeing? 3% within 1 month, 21% 1 to 3 months, 33% 3 to 6 months, and 43% 6+ months. So that's for me quite encouraging. I know it's about 50% saying over 6, and I probably could have put a 12 months in there. I'm no doubt that would have been split almost pretty evenly as well. But I think depending on where you live, I'm in Sydney. You're starting to see more people venture out now from a medical position. It's probably not the best thing, though. People seem to be quite keen to distance themselves socially. I think when you have people that are going out, you start to see an increase in frontline first wave economic trade at cafes and even retail stores as well, which is good. That's the first sort of people that were affected by this. So there's definitely positive sentiment out there, and hopefully we don't see a second wave of infections, and which forces us all to obviously go backwards and go back into lockdown, hibernation, whatever you want to call it. So I think, you know, if we looked back 3 weeks ago, we're certainly in a much better position. The rhetoric coming out from the government, from medical professionals, is completely different to what it was 3 weeks ago. It's all very positive. Challenge now will be how the government gets that road out of here, the path out, and gets people into jobs again, gets people trading again, gets companies going again. So we will obviously keep a close eye on that. The last thing I wanted to plug, so to speak, we've got a new case studies page looking at all CreditorWatch products, features, apply easy, PPSR logic across multiple industries. So please jump on and have a look at that. If you're interested, click here. If not, on the website at the bottom, there's a case studies page. Other than that, that brings us to the end today. So I wanted to thank you for your time, taking the time to join us. Hopefully you got something out of it. I'm just going to jump in to see if there are any questions that I can answer while people are online. Are we going to receive a recorded webinar? Yes, we will. Some generic information here. Didn't really see a big impact until the end of April, and expecting May to be much tougher. I think there's a bit of information, a few comments here around larger organizations really pushing out payments to smaller suppliers, or to suppliers in general, saying, you know, they're not going to be making payments on all invoices until sort of 90, or here we've got 180 days as well, regardless of when they were issued. That's certainly something that has come up a lot, is how bigger organizations are slowing their payment down. Obviously, Kate Carnell, the Small Business Family Ombudsman, has been on their case for a number of years now. So there's plenty of pressure coming in, and I think if these larger organizations take advantage of COVID as an excuse to blow out payments, they're in for a rude shock. I think that'll almost force the government's hand to start legislating, you know, payments a bit further on. Other than that, just some positive information coming through, positive comments. So I do appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback. If you do have any specific questions, If I haven't managed to get to your question that is in here, we will get back to you, but of course, don't be shy. Please do contact us, jump on the website, there's live chat available, or you can call us on 300 50 13 12. A good question here would be curious to know how many have not seen a deterioration. That'll be a poll question, I think, for next time round. So thank you to Grant there for throwing that out there. That's a really good one. How many of you are still in a good position and trading semi unaffected? Other than that, thanks again, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane. If you are working from home and it's starting to get a bit of cabin fever, get out there, get out and about. We've put some tips and tricks on our website. Did a webinar a few weeks ago if you want to have a look at that. Plenty of good things, plenty of funny things in there as well. But other than that, see you next time. Hopefully, we'll be operating from the office, but if it's the home, so be it. Most important thing is that we're all healthy. So thanks again, everyone. Chat to you later.